Stark from Watch or Pass, and today I'm excited to talk about The Last Letter from Your Lover, which is debuting on Netflix this Friday on July 23rd, 2021. It's a film that has kind of two intertwining stories where you've got one in the past where you're kind of exploring this relationship that happened, and then one in the present where they're trying to kind of track down more information because they just discover these lost letters, these old 1965 love letters that have code name slash nickname, so they don't really know who they're talking about, and they're old and they don't really have the right addresses. So you've got on the one hand, you've got Ellie, who's played by Felicity Jones. She's a journalist, and she is trying to write this story, and she's writing an obituary, I believe. And then during this, she discovers these letters, this mysterious letter that's also in the archives. It's not related to the story that she's working on, but it intrigues her because of just kind of how romantic, how kind of tragic, and how touching the writing is. And so she starts researching this, trying to find more information, and she recruits this archivist played by, and I'm going to butcher this, I'm sorry, Nabhaan Rizwan, to help her, and the two of them kind of start finding these letters, tracking them down, trying to figure out what happened. And then during this, you also get flashbacks to the characters that are portrayed in this letter, and they're played by Shailene Woodley, who plays Jennifer, or Jenny, I think, Jenny. And then also Callum Turner, who plays Anthony, a journalist who is chronicling Jennifer's husband, played by Joe Alwyn. And so you have this, these two stories that kind of progress kind of at the same time, but 50 years apart. It's interesting because you have, the first meeting, they progress at the same time, but kind of 50 years apart. And so they'll cut back and forth as, you learn more in the present, you see more in the past. And it's an interesting way to tell the story. It's a little confusing at the start because it starts in the past, and then you kind of jump to the future, and so you're kind of going back and forth, but eventually you kind of get used to it, and it does help tell the story without revealing too much, and also kind of lets you get a feel for both timelines. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about three things I liked about this film, three things I didn't like about this film, and then talk a little about the ending. I'm talking about story elements and the ending, so there will be spoilers. So if you don't want to learn about this, or you don't want to know more about the film, you can either go to watchyourpass.com, which is where I post my written reviews. They're much more general, and they're spoiler free, so you can go look at there, or you can watch the film and then come back and watch this. It's up to you, but you've been warned. Or if you don't care about spoilers, let's continue. So the first thing I loved about this film is the cast. It's an all-star cast. You've got Felicity Jones, Callum Turner, and Shailene Woodley. They're kind of the main stars. But then you've also got Joe Alwyn and Nabhaan Rizwan, who both, everyone is well cast, and they do a really great job. I especially liked, I like Callum Turner. I really loved him in the Only Living Boy in New York, and he kind of plays a similar character. He's kind of this bad-ish boy. Like, he's not really bad, but he kind of influences people in a bad way, but he kind of has a heart of gold as well. And he's a little bit more likable in this film versus The Only Living Boy in New York, but he still does a great job, and he's a very likable kind of rebellious-ish character that he really kind of sets the stage very well. And then you got Shailene Woodley, who plays this wife who at the time she has interests and things outside of her life, but she can't really freely express those, and so she starts confiding in Anthony, and their relationship grows. It's kind of a whirlwind summer relationship. It's strange because it kind of progresses slowly at the start and then progresses very quickly after they actually start becoming romantically involved. You also have Felicity Jones, who is she is fantastic, although, as I'll get into later, I didn't love her character, but Felicity Jones is great, as you would expect. So the next thing, and also, I really liked the archivist, Nabhaan Rizwan. He did a really, really good job as this kind of, I guess, pitiful type of character, but he also is kind of fun. Like, he is a very strict rule follower, which is a kind of a fun contrast with Felicity Jones, who seems to either she's used to getting her way, or she knows what she wants and she's going to get it either way. And so they have a fun dynamic, and he is also you get to learn more about his life, and he's also a very likable character. And then Joe Alwyn, his character is not very likable, but he does a good job. Like, Lawrence is supposed to be kind of an asshole in this film, and Joe does it perfectly. So I really like the cast. The second thing I loved, and this is something that's very striking in this film, is kind of the style, the setting, like everything that kind of goes into the visual aspects of this film. It's set in the French Riviera, so, or at least a good portion of it is set in the French Riviera. So you have some amazing, amazing scenes. You've got some beautiful sunsets. You've got some great water scenes. You've got some beautiful views from this kind of palace. Not really a palace, it's like an estate. And that really, I imagine that helps set the romance because you're in the French Riviera. And then on top of that, you've got these just amazing outfits that Jennifer, played by Shailene Woodley, she wears, and it's she has these just wonderful, kind of well put together, but also very stylish outfits that she wears. Her outfits really pop off the screen and really contribute to the overall visual style of this film. And the third thing I really liked is the music in this film. It has a lot of, I can't tell if they're actual 1960s songs or if they just are period appropriate songs, but it has a lot of really nice music that kind of it plays in the background, but it also plays during some of the pivotal romance scenes where the pair are out dancing or they're kind of out walking around, and you get this like really great old feeling soundtrack. That all of this does is kind of sets the stage for this romance tale. It lets you kind of go back in time. There's some great cars, there's some great fashion, there's a great setting, and it really lets you kind of get in and get involved with this pair as they're exploring their feelings. And the music is just another component of that helps a lot. So things I didn't love about this film. The first is, the story, it's a long movie, but that's fine because you're starting to get to know these characters and kind of getting to know their predicaments and see their relationship progress. It does slow down kind of in the middle. It feels like, during, and maybe this is just kind of accurate for how it would be, like, when they're kind of exploring their friendship and their feelings, it gets a little slow. It's not bad, but and then once the romance happens, it speeds up abruptly. So there was a little bit of slowdown in the middle. It wasn't too bad, but it kind of, it was noticeable. And this movie is already fairly long, so it was noticeable in that respect. The second thing I didn't love is I didn't really love Ellie's character. She had, or yeah, Ellie's character, Felicity Jones's character. She had this character turn partway through after she and the archivist hooked up. I think she was worried because she had a past relationship that didn't end well, and so maybe she was a little worried about intimacy. But she just like cuts off contact, and it feels very abrupt because before that she's she is a little more outgoing. She's kind of determined. She knows what she wants. But then once she kind of gets this relationship, she just cuts off all contact for most of the movie. And to be fair, that does set up a pretty cute ending, but it is something that just it felt like a strange character turn and one that wasn't really needed. I mean, then you just have kind of Ellie pursuing this rather than Ellie and the archivist, who I liked their dynamic together. They kind of started this journey together and were kind of learning more as this progressed. So it really felt odd to just kind of cut him off completely, so that Ellie can pursue this on her own and ignore him. And the third thing I didn't love about this film, I guess the ending, although it did have a cute ending, like a nice, romance film ending. But I guess maybe it's more the circumstances that led to the ending that I didn't love. And this is a perfect segue to just go into some of the ending discussion. So I already said spoilers. There will be lots of spoilers here. So if you don't want to know, don't worry, don't keep going. But here we go. So the ending was cute because so in the end, like basically what happens is Ellie starts to research this. And so what she does is she sends a letter to the post office box that all the old letters went to. It was like P.O. Box 13 in London. And so she gets a response from Jennifer Stirling, who says, like, that was in the past. I don't want to talk about it. But now she has her name and her address. So she goes to Jennifer Stirling and talks to her, but Jennifer says she doesn't want to talk about it, and the relationship that she had with Mr. O'Hare, or Anthony, is private. So that lets Ellie then learn about Anthony, and then she kind of gets to know both of them separately. And she eventually convinces Anthony to send a letter to Jennifer using the P.O. box that he's already sent lots of letters to, and he knows that that's the P.O. box. And so then, because of that, he says this, essentially, I'm sorry it took so long, but this is our last, this is the last time I'll try. I want to meet up at this park at a certain time. And then, so they all go to the park. He's waiting out there, waiting. Doesn't look like she's going to come, but then in the end, she comes. And they, they're now 50 years older, and they finally meet up and can, I guess, start their relationship now that all their lives have been. Now, to be fair, I guess it was not a good time before, and there were lots of circumstances that kept them apart. But this also feels like maybe a film that would have been more relevant 15, 20 years ago. I don't know, I just feel like at this point, information is very readily available. So if she wanted to look him up, she probably could have. She said that she like scoured the newspapers trying to find him. And yeah, back in the 70s, 80s, it might have been difficult. But now she could just probably Google search his name, and I'm sure he would come up. She also was a very well-off person, so she really wanted to know where he ended up. She probably could have hired a private investigator to find him. It felt like there was this manufactured separation because of their circumstances, but it seems like eventually those circumstances ended, and then they just kind of stayed away because they were set in their ways. And she didn't want to find him because she wasn't sure if he because she didn't know where to find him, and he didn't want to bug her because he wanted to let her live her life. But it feels like this was something that could be overcome. And then it also kind of leads to this, I don't know, it's a happy ending, but it's also a little sad because they're finally now together, and they're, I don't know, maybe 70s. They're relatively old, so they're starting their relationship with all of this wasted time. It's kind of like how you see, you hear these stories about people who retire and then they want to travel, but now that you're 60, 70, you don't really want to travel because you have aches and pains and medication, and it's not fun anymore, and you can't really do what you used to do. And that's what this ending feels like. It feels like they're finally going to start their love life, but they're both pretty old and kind of have lost out on all that time and that experience together. So, I guess in the end, it is a technically happy ending, but it's one that just, felt a little bittersweet. And maybe that's the point of the movie. Maybe that's the point of this, like, you can't have all these excuses. You just kind of have to go for it. But it feels like in our modern world, this might have been avoidable. Maybe 20 years earlier, maybe they could have had, their 50s. I don't know. But that's my take on The Last Letter from Your Lover. It was a good film. It was a beautiful romance drama. It had some wonderful style, some really beautiful scenes, and a great cast. So I think ultimately it's something that you can watch and enjoy. But there were a few things that I thought just felt a little off. Maybe that's because, I don't know, if the book maybe been written earlier, or there was something that was translated into the film that felt a little off. But in any event, I still enjoyed it. I think you'll enjoy it too. So that is The Last Letter from Your Lover, which is debuting on Netflix on July 23rd, 2021. And thank you so much for watching. If you liked this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.